Monday, February 12th. Welcome to the Damon Bruce Show. And this is not the show we wanted to do. As a matter of fact, the show that Larry and I wanted to do started at 8 a.m., but due to technical difficulties, we were unable to do that. To say that things have not gone particularly well over the last 24 hours or so for the 49ers would be an understatement, but I just grabbed these headphones because I do see Lawrence, who has, I believe, troubleshot things. How are you, Larry?
What's up? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can see you, which means the show is already better than this morning's wake up. We apologize to everyone. Larry, router problems haunting the family. Is that what's going on here? Is that what happened?
Yeah, router problems for some whatever reason. Poorly timed router difficulty.
Did your router know the overtime rules, though? I guess that's the big question, because apparently, as this news is sort of trickling out today, Kyle Shanahan's team was unaware of overtime rules. Arif Hassan in The Ringer said that the 49ers, well, he set this all up saying that the Kansas City Chiefs have been preparing for new overtime rules since training camp. The 49ers did not do the same. Multiple San Francisco players after the game said that they were unaware that their overtime rules are different in the playoffs than they are in the regular season, and that strategy discussions over how to handle overtime period did not occur as a team. Larry, that is a level of negligence that Kyle Shanahan has to wear like a bag of shame on his head. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, it made me wonder why, so I understand in a regular season deal with the old rules, why you would take the ball first. But I didn't understand in these current rules where you're going to get the ball either way, why you would want to go first if you won the coin toss. Wouldn't you want to go second? So you knew what you needed. And essentially had 4 downs to get it done as opposed to 3. So, yeah, that was a major gaffe for sure by the 49ers. I think the other major gaffe was that, there was a lot that happened in this game. CMC fumbled. Trent Williams had back-to-back drive-killing penalties. Greenlaw went out with an Achilles injury. There was a punt return fumble. There was a missed PAT. There was, the Niners seemed to abandon the run at the end of the overtime drive, and just soft coverage. I thought they played poorly. They had some poorly timed blitzes in overtime. It was a team loss, but the one that's just so hard that haunts me is that the Niners had 1 rushing attempt in a 3-drive period in the second half of the game that resulted in 0 first downs against a team that has a very challenged run defense. So, that it was not a great performance by Shanahan, and you kind of wonder if how long this one sticks to him. Because the 49ers did a lot of good things. But you know what? The Chiefs did more good things. And yeah, you can sit there and say Mahomes is better and he played great down the stretch and he deserved the MVP. But, the 49ers didn't play a clean game. The Chiefs generated 9 unblocked pressures in the Super Bowl. All came on blitzes. They didn't seem like they were prepared at all for the Spagnuolo blitz package.
Have you seen the free release highlight on Clark where McKivitz just let him go, and McKivitz and Burford just
Jones,
just let him go, and Ayuk was literally by himself in the end zone.
Yeah,
if Purdy had a clean pocket, that's probably a touchdown 9.5 out of 10 times.
Yeah. No, I saw Baldy highlight that one. I thought Trent McDuffie played an incredible game. He dominated the Niner wide receivers.
And I'll tell you, if not Trent McDuffie having a penalty, the 49ers would have started their overtime period with a 3-and-out. Yeah. Had Trent McDuffie not got called with a holding penalty right there. So, when the Chiefs hand you opportunity and you do not take it, you're going to lose to them. And this was a game that was defined by squandered moments. An opening drive that looked like it was cooking pretty well, then unfortunately is capped with a Christian McCaffrey fumble. You got the Kansas City fumble of the ball, and the 49ers turned that not into points, but a punt. Mahomes then throws you an interception basically right out of the gate in the second half. And do you take advantage of that? They don't. That turns into a punt. And this is in the, this is just, these are things that can't happen in a Super Bowl, and they doubly can't happen when you're playing the Kansas City Chiefs, who got that champion's blood. I mean, the collective talent of just Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Andy Reid, the three of them know more about winning than the entirety of the 49ers coaching staff and roster put together. We're talking over 70 human beings outweighed by the talent of three. Add Steve Spagnuolo. How were the Chiefs the underdog in this game? I guess it's the Niners' credit that they were in it as much as they were, because they didn't come out and play well. The 49ers saved their worst football of the year for basically the playoffs, and that is going to sting. And I really mean it. I'm wondering, Larry, and you and I have spent an awful lot of time trying to explain some patience to people, that Rome does not get built in the day. Kyle is a good head coach, and he is. He's a good head coach. He can draw up a scheme. I wonder if he's a leader of men. Steve Young talked about Super Bowls being ripped from bloody hands. Kyle's team doesn't do the ripping. The bloody hands that Super Bowls get ripped from are Kyle's. He is the possessor of the bloody hands, not the opponent. 2 10-point leads blown as a head coach. And, you can't help but think a little about the Atlanta collapse that, again, he wasn't the head coach for. But that game was dotted with poor offensive decisions. This game gets dotted with poor offensive decisions and execution as well. And you can't have your best players making mistakes in the biggest game of the year. Trent Williams, we're looking at you. Christian McCaffrey, you had a very good game, but we're looking at you. Can't have that fumble there on that opening drive. It was a devastating loss. No doubt about it. I mean, there's no.
Well, they just
justifying it. No excuses. It's a devastating loss.
They didn't do enough offensively when they could. I mean, in the first half, the Niner defense was playing out of its mind. They're holding Mahomes down. They're holding Mahomes and company to just 3 points at halftime. They forced 2 first half turnovers, and yet they only led by 7 at the break. I mean, that should have been a much bigger lead. And then fast forward to the second half, you got the best running back in the game. You've got Christian McCaffrey, who's one of the great running backs in the sport. And then you call 6 consecutive passes to start the third quarter. And what do you get out of it? -2 yards and 2 consecutive 3-and-outs. I mean, that right there was absolutely criminal. When you look at Shanahan in the X's and O's matchup with Spagnuolo got the best of him in many of the most consequential plays of the game. On the final 2 Niner possessions, the Chiefs were able to hold the Niners to field goals with timely third down blitzes, and Shanahan's play calls showed that he wasn't prepared for it. Purdy had no time to find an open receiver. Each time he did, just well enough to throw the ball away to avoid a sack. But the worst one was Shanahan's decision to take the ball first after winning the overtime coin toss. That was just objectively wrong with the new OT rules that allow for both teams to possess the ball. Even if the first team scores a touchdown, it's obviously clearly better to go second so you know what you have to beat. And this allows you to go for it on fourth down, even deep in your own territory when you're trailing. And then after the game, Shanahan stated that he took the ball so the 49ers would get the ball first in sudden death in the event that both teams match scores. But I mean,
that's preposterous. That feels like spackling, a huge mistake, and I'm calling.
But that's an unlikely. Yeah, it's an unlikely. That's a very unlikely scenario. It's like, so it's just. It's just it was frustrating listening to some of his players say that they didn't know the rules. is never a good look. So, I mean, like really, if you go back and recap his decision there in overtime, the only scenario that would justify Shanahan's decision was if both teams kicked a field goal and then the Niners got the ball with the chance to win. I don't know. I mean, I'd rather have the knowledge of what I need to do to win with Patrick Mahomes off the field. I mean, it's just to me, I mean, this is one of the worst decisions in the history of playoff coaching. People are comparing it today to Marty Morningweg taking the wind instead of the ball way back in 2002 when the Bears proceeded to go down and win the game on the first possession of overtime. I mean, it's really sad because Shanahan has been in position to win 3 rings and 3 times he's let it slip away. And you wonder if the players lose their belief in him over time. But, it's like, it's easy to say, well, Mahomes and the Chiefs are a dynasty, but the Niners mishandled that overtime for sure. And, Spagnuolo outcoached Shanahan. I mean, he had great timely blitzes. The Niners had no answer. He had an impact on the game. And then the 49ers, once again, under Shanahan, got a little too pass happy, though when you consider their advantage is McCaffrey in their run game, and they go away from that with 2 key series in the second half. Just inexcusable stuff.
So what was on full display in the most important moments of that game is one team knows how to win a big game and the other head coach has no clue. I mean, is as much of have you ever been in this situation before? And that's what's so damning on Kyle, because he's been in this situation now multiple times and he seems to be getting worse at it. And there is no doubt that he's going to be the head coach of the 49ers week 1 next year. And they might have a fine regular season next year, Larry, and no one's going to give a shit. Because if you do anything other than bet on them to get to a big moment and blow it, that might be an ill-advised way to go about it, because Kyle is just, history tends to repeat itself. And it's a devastating loss. I believe it is among, without a doubt, this is not an exaggeration, that might be the most devastating loss in the history of this franchise. Is that hyperbole? Am I getting too over my skis? Have you got another one?
It's okay. I mean, the 90 fumble, that team was a total dynasty, and they fumbled in the NFC Championship game. And
right, but that's the NFC Championship game. That's not the Super Bowl. So what's the worst loss in a Super Bowl? I think that...
I mean, losing to the Ravens, you had 1st and goal on the 5 with 2 minutes and 20 seconds left in the game, and you lost to a old Ravens team that was huffing, and puffing, and they just were out of gas at that point. That was, to me, a little worse than this, but this was bad. This was bad. I mean, this one was there for the taking. Very frustrating game, all the way through. I mean, look at the box score. The box score says it all. I mean, it's like they also just got to this moment and their star cast kind of eroded right before their eyes. They lost Greenlaw. Deebo clearly wasn't 100%. Kittle was a non-factor as a receiver, just a factor in the run game. I thought that they didn't run it enough, even though, McCaffrey got 22 carries. He only averaged 3.6 a carry, but, 38 passes, 22 runs, or 31, I guess it was 31 total runs, but 22 to McCaffrey. That's, I wanted to see more of that.
Yeah. Again, you look at the box score and it's easy to say, well, they did run it enough. They were balanced. But the truth is, as you were watching in real time, not running enough to me is the defining feature of how the 49ers lost this game. And I do think it's the worst loss in the history of the franchise. I mean, remember, the Ravens were way up on a Super Bowl that the Niners almost came back in. They were in control of this game early on, and they had several chances to put their opponent in a perilous place, and they took none of them. And the weakness of the special teams, even though, look, it's ironic that Moody drills 50-yarders in this game and misses the point after touchdown. I mean, that is a devastating moment that everyone feared might rear its head. And for a minute there, when he made such a long field goal for the first score of the game, it looked like you didn't really need to worry about that. But then that came back to haunt you. And this is awful. This is awful. And this is the kind of loss that makes players who used to believe in their coach less. And it is not, I think, coincidence that Eric Armstead, who never talks out of turn, or Kyle Juszczyk, who never talks out of turn, are the two guys going on record saying that son of a bitch never prepared us for this moment. We didn't know about the new overtime rules until Bill Vinovich was reading it on the Jumbotron in Allegiant Stadium.
Well, I mean, but he's a defensive player. I mean, yeah, I would imagine he's got to blame Wilkes first, right?
Well, no. So why do you send out a defensive player then to make that coin toss? If the defensive side of the ball doesn't know what the rules are, why are you sending Fred Warner out to call heads or tails?
Well, it's clear they played it like a regular season game. I mean, in a regular season game, you would take the ball. So, because if you score a touchdown,
right, but that's
game
the thing.
over.
It's clear that they didn't know the rules, is my point. They didn't understand the situation that they were in, and that is all head coach. That is unforgivable. This is why Andy Reid is talking about it in training camp, because he's a champion, and this is why Kyle didn't know what was going on, because he is a massive game loser.
Well, there's no getting around it today. I mean, today he's got to wear it. He's absolutely got to wear it. But I mean, there were other factors here. Whoever picked the defensive lineman named Solomon Thomas, that has led them down this whole road where they've missed on defensive linemen, and they keep drafting defensive linemen. And guess what happens? You've got a bunch of highly rated defensive linemen that can't play because you're not picking the right guys. And then you got an offensive line that's been neglected because you haven't drafted anybody. So now you're leaning on a 5th-round pick who's a good story, but you're going to make him, a bad story because you're going to start him at right tackle all year long. And they got bad offensive line play in this game. They got away from the run. That was on Kyle. To me, that Deebo and Kittle didn't touch the ball enough. Ultimately, that's on Kyle.
Have you watched enough of the All-22 yet to see what really happened there? I mean, those obviously, Kansas City's secondary was sticky all game long, and the pressure was good enough to make Brock get to, he had time to get to a third read, maybe just a handful of times in an entire game before he started running for his life. But Deebo was terrible in this game. And I don't want to hear shit about that injury that he occurred in the game, because he came back in and he actually played better after it looked like he pulled his hamstring than he did. The Dre Greenlaw thing is just as unfortunate a you got to be kidding me injury. I mean, it's almost like the team's cursed in the Super Bowl now. The team that was a perfect 5-0 is now a devastating 0-3 in 3 Super Bowls in a row. Kyle being the architect of the last 2 of them is just, it's just not good, man. And again, you and I aren't excuse makers. You and I are the two guys who have said Kyle might be better at this than his Super Bowl record indicates. I have lost faith in his ability to win a big one. There's a big difference between I'm a really good strategist and I'm a coach who knows how to close out the biggest game of the year. And I don't know if Kyle is that guy. I just don't. I believe he's a smart football man. I believe his players respect him. And I'm going to have to win. I'm going to have to watch him win a Super Bowl before I believe he's going to do it. He feels like he's going to need a change of scenery to win a Super Bowl. How many times can he walk into that locker room? How many times can that locker room honestly say, like, well, now we know what we need to do. Now we're really motivated to get up and get out and win the next one. I mean, this is a staggering amount of not closing it out, either in NFC title games or Super Bowls. They have been the second best team in football during the Kansas City Chiefs era, and they are a distant second to the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, no question. I mean, now, on the other hand, they've appeared in 7 conference championship games over the last 14 years. So the organization has found a way to contend, but they haven't found a way to climb to the top of the mountain and win this game.
Right.
And, yesterday was very, very frustrating from a lot of standpoints. You wonder if Shanahan needs some help He's wearing multiple hats. He's the head coach and he's the offensive coordinator. Maybe he can't be both. Maybe he's got to be one or the other. Maybe that's the issue. Maybe the issue is they just ultimately everything that you do on offense starts with, can you protect? Can you block it? And they're struggling to come up with an offensive line that can block. So, I mean, no doubt in my mind that they're pretty good on the left side, and they're pretty ordinary at center, right guard, and right tackle. So
let me ask you a question before
I think they really could use. This was going to be an off season where they were going to have to, upgrade the offensive line. Now they need to upgrade the offensive line and the defensive line. And the question is, can they do that fast enough to get back into this game again and get another shot at it? I don't know. I don't know what the answer to that is.
I seriously hope that their Super Bowl window has not closed. You don't get to keep it open as long as you want. You don't get to be like, well, we're really good and we'll figure it out eventually. That's just not how this league works. You're an injury away from everything going wrong at all times. And this was the most set up to finally get it done football team Kyle might ever have in his entire life. And it didn't happen. And it's thoroughly devastating. There's no way to pretend that what we saw wasn't a direct result of a coach just not knowing how to win when it matters most. And not running the ball enough in big games has become a defining feature of Kyle Shanahan's coaching strategy in big games. And I just don't know why, for a guy who is so committed to the run, overly committed to the run, you get to the Super Bowl and think, yeah, now's the time to find some balance. I don't understand it. I really don't understand it. And it was brutal. Let me just say welcome not only to the Damon Bruce show, but how about this? We didn't have wake up for breakfast, Larry. It's brunch wake up with us here after the Super Bowl, thanks to a router issue, but we have solved that issue and we're glad that everyone is here right now. We truly are. Thank you very much for joining us. Damon Bruce, Larry Krueger. We got big wake-up plans starting in March, taking this to a 3-day-a-week morning show. Please hit like. Please hit subscribe. Larry, Niners fans are a little sick and tired of hearing it. I have lost 15 subscribers since midnight last night. I think people are just like, I'm out. I'm just going to take a little vacation from this team for a while. Maybe I'll come back to you, Damon and Larry. Maybe we're going to do more 49er talk in the near future. But a lot of fans are just saying, I don't want to hear it anymore. I don't want to hear it anymore.
It's just the way it is. Just the way it is. And you know what? You come, you join, you leave. Do what you got to do.
Football's not for the faint of heart, that's for sure. And
just some people want to be there in the winner's circle, but they don't want to be there if the team's not winning. And I get it. I get it. So do what you got to do. But we're here going to produce good content. What can you say? I mean, they weren't good enough to get it done. Matt Miller, interestingly enough, is like, and I was on in Chicago this morning on the Score, and they're immediately asking, is Brock Purdy good enough? This is not a Brock Purdy conversation. No. Brock Purdy was fine.
We don't need to relitigate the quarterback.
Brock Purdy's offensive line wasn't fine. The Niners didn't play well. Shanahan, I think, kind of always seems to gets pass happy in these situations and doesn't want to run the ball, gets bored running the ball. I think more than anything, if you say what's Shanahan's primary issue, he's just too impatient. He's too impatient. He doesn't see the forest through the trees. When he falls behind in games, he just abandons the run and just tries to sling it all over the yard. And he knows he needs to run, but he doesn't commit to the run. And in this game, if you're not going to commit to the run in a year where Christian McCaffrey, basically was the offensive player of the year in the league. I mean, who are you going to run it with? So I don't know. I don't know what to say about Shanahan's issues in big games, but man, how do you call 9 plays in the third quarter, 8 of them passes when you've got Christian McCaffrey. That just doesn't add up.
No, and I don't know what he can say. I'm sure he's working on a lot of justifications. He's good at explaining things away. I'm calling bullshit on all of it, man. Kyle Shanahan, it says head coach on your business card, and you as a head coach have now been involved in titanic collapses. And at some point that defines you more than your regular season boy genius wunderkind card. Your modern Marty Schottenheimer. Your Norv Turner. And that's what some guys are. And that's what my fear is here. Some guys are better coordinators than they are head coaches. And maybe that's where this tops out for Kyle. I mean, I hope I'm wrong, because he's not going anywhere. We don't even know what his new extension is or how many years he's got. Let me ask you this before we get into just the facts here, Larry. Bill Belichick calls Jed York today, personally, says, I would like to be your head coach. What do?
You say thanks, but no thanks. Now, if he wants to be the defensive coordinator, I mean, Bill Belichick has had a rough few years here. Bill Belichick has asked defensive coaches to be his offensive coordinator. They drafted a quarterback in the first round that they now want to trade. They have not had.
Say that about Kyle too. I mean,
they've not had a single
quarterback in the first round. He did trade.
Yeah, but he has a quarterback. I mean, Patriots don't have a quarterback. The other one is that the Patriots haven't had a single player that they drafted get a second contract in years.
All right. Well, here's the thing, Bill. You don't have total control. You're not going to be the GM.
I'd rather have him. I mean, he's 70-something years old. I would rather have him be the defensive coordinator.
Go out
and I would do it. I actually would do it. Why? Because you got 6 young DBs, and there was. I mean, you still. I mean, yes, for all the decisions that Shanahan made, the Niner defense still allowed Mahomes to drive the length of the field with the season on the line and score. So it's not like Wilkes is some awesome, monster defensive coordinator, and they'll be screwed without him.
But here's the thing. Mahomes is eventually going to find a way. The 49ers, their failure in this game was executed on special teams, which has been an eternal Kyle Shanahan blind spot. And his offense stunk when it needed to not stink. Again, Deebo got better after the hamstring pull. So maybe, when you're talking about who's got to go, you got to cut some salary. You got to figure out things out. What if Deebo is incredibly talented but overpaid, therefore overrated? George Kittle, but for his big play on 4th and gotta have it, I'm not even sure he was in Las Vegas. I mean, George Kittle vanishes for large stretches. And you know what great players do? You can take a half away from them. You can't take an entire game away from them. Patrick Mahomes showed you that. Travis Kelce showed you that. Travis Kelce had 1 catch for 1 yard at halftime. He ended up with 9 catches, and he led the team in receiving. He led the entire game in receiving yards, and all of it came on, the final drive of regulation and in overtime. When the chips hit the table, Travis Kelce is the man. Patrick Mahomes is the man. The 49ers turn into scared little boys when the money's on the table, and it's their head coach who, I mean, maybe that's you take on the personality of your head coach. That's what the Lions did all year. Super aggressive. Maybe the personality of their head coach is wrapping your own hands around your own neck and gagging away the biggest games of the year. That is the defining trait of Kyle Shanahan. I don't want to hear about what his regular winning percentage is.
Today you're firing Kyle Shanahan?
No, I'm not firing Kyle Shanahan, but I am doubting Kyle Shanahan in such a severe way. I mean, how about this? Let's say the stars align and they're in the Super Bowl again next year and they lose next year. You going to give him a 4th bite at that apple? I mean, he'd only be 45 years old, still a very young man in a lot of ways, but I don't know if I would give a coach a chance to lose a 4th Super Bowl. Kyle has been allowed to lose 2 Super Bowls here. And look, I don't think, unless you got a better idea.
There's 32 teams in the league. I mean, the Lions have never been to a Super Bowl. You're talking about blaming a coach for losing the Super Bowl. I mean, Andy Reid lost the Super Bowl with McNabb. Would you have dumped Andy Reid? Because now he's in Kansas City getting it done.
Phillies did. Or excuse me, the Eagles did.
Right.
And they went on to win the Super Bowl.
I'm just saying they did, but I don't know if that was a good move for them. I mean, yeah, they've now dumped the guy who they won the Super Bowl with. So, I mean, I don't know if that was a great move. They got rid of Andy saying he can't get it done. He goes to Kansas City, finds a better quarterback and a better GM, and gets it done 3 times.
What's with 4 false starts? What's with 4 false starts in this game? I couldn't believe that. Couldn't believe that.
The Niners O-line was not good enough. And that's really what it came down to. I mean, Brock Purdy would have found Ayuk on the backside if he had time, but instead there was a blown protection up front, and he had no time to throw. So, there you go. But I mean, as far as Shanahan needs to wear, the fact that in the third quarter they got away from the pass and they got away from the run and they got too pass happy with a lead in a huge game. And it's happened again. It's happened, multiple times. He's somewhat defined by that move right there. And then of course the OT decision is one that, it's indefensible. Your team didn't know the rules. And if your team didn't know the rules, it's because you didn't know the rules. And if you don't know the rules, it's a hard leg to stand on. So, and there's plenty of blame for Shanahan. I don't know that I would get rid of him as a coach. I don't think I would, but at the same time,
no, look,
there needs to be some major changes.
I'm not advocating for Kyle Shanahan to lose his job. But if I were Jed York, I'm telling him you need to win the Super Bowl next year desperately, because I don't know how much longer I can just go on hoping that you figure it out eventually. I mean, we have a significant sample size of big game failure from Kyle now, don't we not?
He has not climbed to the top of the mountain. He had a 28-3 lead when he was the offensive coordinator in Atlanta. He had a lead of 10 points against the Chiefs in Miami. And now this one where, they just didn't do enough offensively, and they had a major run advantage. They didn't take advantage of it. They let Kansas City hang around till the end, and they didn't get any luck from the officials. There's no question the officials didn't help. The 2 most penalized tackles in the NFL, going up against Nick Bosa and the 49er defensive line, weren't penalized once.
Not once.
And there's multiple examples of them bear hugging guys. So it is what it is. And
what would Eddie D do?
He would be really, really pissed, but I don't think he would fire Shanahan.
I don't think Shanahan should be fired, but he needs to be put on the single most double secret probation a successful NFL head coach could possibly be put on. And again, when I keep on hearing from your players that you didn't explain the overtime rules, wow. I mean, that's just, I don't know how that would be survivable for anyone. I mean,
well, it's more, it doesn't really matter if they understand the overtime rules or not. It has much more to do with it's about strategizing. It's about when to take the ball. You had to know the rules yourself.
Well, you had to know what to say at the coin toss.
You had to know what to call. I mean, you won the coin toss. You should have deferred. Instead, you took the ball.
That means you don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, that
means I don't put, to me, it's much more on Kyle than for, the players just need to play ball. If you're a defensive lineman, sack the quarterback, stop the run. But if you're the head coach, you got to know the proper strategy. And he didn't. So there's no way. It's an indefensible position. It's why he's going to be dragged so so thoroughly today, coast to coast, because the move that he made is indefensible.
Yeah, it is absolutely indefensible. Welcome. It is good to have you on the Damon Bruce Show, which is basically a late wake up due to technical difficulties. To say that people want in and want the show is an understatement. Over 1,000 people here in the room right now, which I've rarely had for an 11 o'clock show. Larry, I know that you are simulcasting on your channel as well. Thanks to everyone for being here. Well, we got a lot of therapy to go through together. Let's get into just the facts of this, Larry. Just the facts. 10,607 days and counting since the 49ers have won a Super Bowl. That could have been reset to 0 with a win last night, but that did not happen. Kansas City became the 9th team ever to repeat as Super Bowl champions. They are absolutely spectacular. And although this show is going to be filled with an awful lot of blaming the 49ers, one thing that needs to be at the forefront is the Kansas City Chiefs have put together one of the finest decades we have ever seen any football team assemble, and they have a quarterback who 6 years into his career is already in the single greatest quarterback of all time conversation. We have a head coach in Andy Reid who is entering a conversation of head coaching acumen that is going to have him maybe, top 5, top 3 in NFL history. That's what Andy Reid is becoming. Travis Kelce gets to go home with a woman who's literally, I don't know if any American-born woman had a better year than Taylor Swift ever in the history of the United States. She is the biggest single success in her gender globally in terms of entertainment and income, and her boyfriend wins the fucking Super Bowl. I mean, what do you want, man? Nobody had a better year than Taylor Swift, other than the Kansas City Chiefs, who now get to party with Taylor. I mean, it's unbelievable what the 49ers ran into here and how good the Kansas City Chiefs truly are. It was the second of 58 Super Bowls to be tied after regulation and the first to be played under the new overtime rules. And Kyle didn't even know that or didn't talk to his players about it. And for a guy who is as meticulous, I mean, here's the one thing that I know you and I will both agree on. Kyle is a meticulous planner. How this escaped him and his planning, that's what I want to know. I hope you ask him that question in his next media availability. How could you possibly not give your team the most important piece of information that they could possibly have should you be going to overtime in the Super Bowl?
Well, it's not even that. How did you not know it? Because there's no defending that you did know it. You didn't know it. Forget about your team. You didn't know the rules to overtime in the Super Bowl. You didn't know the rules.
And it's literally being explained, by the way, by Bill Vinovich on these things. Like, all you had to do was read the fucking scoreboard. What is he doing? Other than and like he's about to poop his pants into his play sheet under his flat brimmed hat. I mean, Kyle is a real thing.
You don't have anybody on your headsets who's got the peace of mind to say, "Hey guys, I know this is different. This is what we normally do, but this is a difference here. The team that gets the ball first is at a disadvantage in the current rules. The team that gets the ball second has the advantage of knowing what they need. If the Chiefs go first and they kick a field goal, all you need is a field goal. If the Chiefs go first and they score a touchdown, you need a touchdown. There's an advantage to going second over going first. And I mean, that's really, really clear. And I'm shocked that there's not a single person on the 49er headsets that could say that out loud to the head coach.
It's unbelievable. Juwan Jennings threw a touchdown pass. He caught a touchdown pass. Only Nick Foles has ever done that in a Super Bowl. The 49ers have now blown 2 10-point leads in the Super Bowl under Kyle Shanahan, and the Chiefs championship parade is Valentine's Day on Wednesday. And I don't tell you that to twist the knife. I tell you that to remember, fellas, it's Valentine's Day on Wednesday. Get your shit together. You don't want to be caught without the knowledge of that, like Kyle Shanahan was of the overtime rules in the Super Bowl. The massive special team miscue.
Is there a conference call? Is there a Valentine's Day conference call that maybe somebody could, hey, Krug, just so you know, I know your mind's spinning, but hey, get a card, get some chocolates, get a balloon, maybe some a gift of some kind, something meaningful. Don't fuck it up.
Don't get caught not knowing whether or not you should take the bouquet or give the bouquet on Valentine's Day. You're going to want to know that. If I'm the 49ers, I'm cutting Ray McCloud today. Get the fuck out of here, Ray.
It wasn't, it hit Luter, right?
I do. But then he watched that. Ray McCloud has one job. Be a good special teams returner. And he's not even good at that job. And then he has one other job, is to know that you fall on that. You don't try to pick it up and make a play. That's all he has been coached at since Pop Warner. You fall on that. Don't pick it up and make a play. What was he thinking? Luter, again, I want to blame the rookie. Ray's got to tell him whatever the code word, Charlie, red, which means you just start running to the sideline. You just get out of the way. Ray McCloud had as much to do with losing this Super Bowl as anybody. He really did. You cannot be bad at your job and bad at your job. Ray McCloud's biggest play of the entire year was a downfield block like 60 yards down the field for Christian McCaffrey all the way back in week 3. Get him out of here.
I know. So it's another rough one, he has not been reliable. Brian Schneider was brought in to coordinate the special teams. They draft a rookie kicker. The rookie kicker misses a PAT. They wind up going to overtime because of the missed PAT. It's just.
Does this team?
It's just. There's so many things. People are calling me a hypocrite because I said last night that I would have taken the ball in overtime. I didn't know the rules. I'll freely admit that. I didn't realize that they had changed the overtime rules, but of course I'm not a coach.
Right. We're on YouTube. There's a big difference.
We're on YouTube and we're watching it.
I am sitting here. I'm broadcasting at the 2-minute warning. I went live at the 2, so I'm watching all this. The volume's not on, and I'm like, all right, well, they won the coin toss. You got a 7. You go down here, you score, you win, and all of a sudden people are like, no, it's not how it works anymore. And I'm like, oh, that's right. That's right. They did change these rules here, but we've never seen it actually come into play. It was rough, man.
It kind of goes to show that Shanahan he's got a little bit of Gabe Kapler to him. He likes the defined, let's decide things when there's no pressure and just stick with it. Let's find where our easily to defend, thoughts are, and let's go with it. And let's not react in real time. Let's, go with some predetermined thing that we've decided ahead of time. And that's where he is on the coin flip. He doesn't want to think about, is my offense better than their defense? He just wants to be like, you know what? This is the way we want to do it. And then obviously that kind of same mindset is one that he carried into this overtime. Like, you know what? We want the ball. Why? Because we're going to go score a touchdown and win the game. Okay, but that's not the way these rules work. So then you got to then think about what is the rule and what is the advantage. And they gave up their advantage. They won the coin toss and could have had the advantage, but gave it up willingly because they didn't know the rule. That's not good.
It definitely is not good. Professional opinion, layman's opinion, I think we can all agree that wasn't good. You fire Brian Schneider?
He's a really highly qualified special teams coach.
Well, his special teams suck.
Yeah, well, and they devoted a 3rd-round pick to the kicker, a 4th-round pick to nobody's devoting more of their dollars and draft capital to the special teams in the Niners. So, I mean,
they can't even figure out who's supposed to return the ball. The 49ers haven't had an exciting, game-breaking, field-flipping, changing return like since Kyle's been the coach.
Somebody here is saying that they took the ball because the defense was tired. Well, I know. I mean, that's the argument, but I don't know if that was actually the case. I mean, when your defensive players say that they don't know the rules, does that mean the coach doesn't know the rules? I don't know. Or did the coach just not share the rules with them? Either way, they were unaware. But, yeah. I mean, that is the argument. That's the argument they're going to spit out today, which is our defense was gassed, and that's why we didn't take the ball.
And look, it was a great, we talked about the play that he would draw up on a napkin drunk in Cancun. Like, if I ever get into the Super Bowl, I'm going to run this son of a bitch. And he did it. He did it. And it was the only score. The only touchdown of that first half was a gimmick play. I mean, that's on Kyle too.
Which was a great play call. It worked.
It did. Oh my God, it was a heart attack on a plate though. When Juwan Jennings threw that just butterfly back, I thought that before it landed in McCaffrey's hands, I thought that could be a pick six going the other way if somebody's on McCaffrey right there. So, even the touchdown that was scored came with a level of razzle dazzle on it that wasn't just straight up football. And Steve Spagnuolo should have a bigger championship ring than anybody else in Kansas City. Like he should, however many diamonds is in anybody's ring, he should get one more diamond in his ring. He was spectacular as a defensive coordinator. And what this guy does throughout his entire career is take great offenses and reduce them to, you ain't so good at this in the biggest games of the year. It's what he does. And he did it last night. And running into Patrick Mahomes is a tough proposition. Kyle has now never beaten the Kansas City Chiefs. His 4 losses against Kansas City Chiefs, regular and postseason included, are his most against any one opponent. And Patrick Mahomes is, I mean, if he walked on water today, I wouldn't be surprised. He's just incredible. It's the greatest start that any player has ever had in the NFL to a career. His career begins with 6 straight AFC title game appearances, 3 Super Bowl wins. He's only 28 years old, and he's already the 4th quarterback to ever win 3 Super Bowls. Brady, Montana, Bradshaw, Troy Aikman, and now Mahomes.
He's a great competitor. He's got a great offensive coordinator. Some terrific weapons, but he's a great competitor.
Oh, I mean, it's more than just competitor. He is state of the art. There's not another Patrick Mahomes rolling off the assembly line.
I mean, there are guys that run better. There are guys that throw better. There are guys that do everything that he does better. But he is the ultimate winner, and he will not be denied. And, you saw what kind of a maniacal competitor he is when they lost to Buffalo earlier this year, and he came unglued. He needs to win. There's rather win. I want to win, but he needs to win. He's got that crazy competitive gene. And
he's the first guy at the podium talking about a three-peat.
Yeah. No,
I mean, it's, hey, you just won your back. You're officially a dynasty right now. You got to go back to back in one of your, collections of Super Bowl excellence. You got to at least have one back to back to be a dynasty. And they're just, if they win 3 in a row, Patrick Mahomes is, sorry, Joe Montana. Sorry, everybody else. He's the greatest quarterback of all time. Sorry, Tom Brady. Sorry, it's Mahomes.
If they win 3 in a row.
If they win 3 in a row.
I mean, the guy's got unbelievable competitive fire. He's hard to tackle. He rumbles for big yardage and big moments. He knows exactly when to run. And he's been surrounded by a phenomenal organization and a great play caller who's surrounded him with good weapons. The only Super Bowl he lost, they couldn't block. In this game, they clearly just held, but they got the calls. And Spags held CMC to 3.6 yards per carry, his lowest yards per carry in any game, where he's had Trent Williams blocking for him. So Spags is a genius. You got to give him his flowers, and Reid's a phenomenal coach, and credit Kansas City. But this one is if you sat here today and say, did the Chiefs win this game or did the Niners lose it? I would say it's right down the middle. I mean, you could argue it either way. You really could. I think that you could make a very compelling argument that the Niners lost this game.
I think so. I think that that's fair. How about this? In the blame game, there's a ton of blame to go around on the 49ers side. I mean, there really is. It wasn't on just one guy. It's on the entire team that just, instead of coming out firing, kind of came out misfiring. And that takes it right back to the head coach, who then also, the day after, we find out doesn't know the rules. That's
and there were other issues beyond that. I mean, Dre Greenlaw could have been healthy if you had just used your younger linebackers throughout the year a little bit. But no. Can't use Jalen Graham at all. Can't use D. Winters at fucking all. You didn't use these guys that you had sitting right there. You could have used them against Washington. You could have used them against Arizona, Seattle. You could have introduced them to some game action and preserved Dre Greenlaw. Instead, you didn't. You let Greenlaw and Warner, who are your linebackers, who basically the Niners' run D sucked all year. They just had Greenlaw and Warner. I mean, think about it that way. You have two of the best second-level run-stop artists in the game, and yet your run defense wasn't any good. And the reason it wasn't any good is because you leaned on those two guys exclusively. They made the percentage of tackles that those guys made in the run game is so much bigger than the percentage of tackles that other linebacker duos around the league made. They didn't have Ebukam. They didn't have Amenahue. They didn't have Mosley. They didn't have Aziz. They didn't have Jimmy Ward. All those guys were good against the run. They didn't have any of those guys all year. They got gashed in the preseason. The only time they stopped the run was when their offense got big leads and teams just stopped running because of the game situation. They never really actually stopped the run. So they did a decent job in this game of trying to stop the run. But, ultimately, you didn't have a healthy Greenlaw. He went out. He basically, he knew that he had an Achilles that was on the verge of going out, and it just went out on him as he jogged onto the field. So, he was diminished by the reps and the snaps that he played this year. You had the depth to ease off on him. Did you know? You had the backs to give McCaffrey more of a rest, so he could have gotten to the playoffs with a little bit more rested, healthy situation. Did you know? So, I think they made some mistakes throughout the year that cost them at the end.
Well, and look, maybe it's time that Juwan Jennings, instead of being your second wide receiver or your third wide receiver, is your second. When are we going to admit that Deebo's a little bit more of a gimmick than he is a great NFL player?
Well, I don't think he was healthy either, to be completely honest. And
well, he's never going to be, though. Like, that's the thing. You know what you get. Deebo is damaged goods. And look, if you're talking about what are hard choices in front of you, might be the time to move on from Deebo and George Kittle. Their bodies are going to fail them, and they're not winning with them a Super Bowl anyways. And these guys are vanishing in the last Super Bowl that the 49ers played in. There's going to be hard choices this offseason. Like Deebo, Kittle, Eric Armstead, one of those names is gone.
Sure. Kansas City's number one receiver is Rashee Rice. They targeted him 8 times. He caught 6 balls. The Niners' number one receiver caught 3 balls for 49 yards. Brandon Ayuk. 3 balls all day in the Super Bowl. So, you obviously didn't get the ball to your number one receiver nearly enough. They made more connections and got better performance out of Justin Watson than the Niners got out of Brandon Ayuk. If I told you before the game, oh, by the way, Brandon Ayuk is going to get out performance today by Justin Watson, Are the Niners going to win? You'd be like, hell no.
No, they're not. No, they will not be winning that game that way. So again, what's the path forward, Larry? You know, how does Kyle walk in front of his team and say, this time we mean it? Like now we're going to circle the wagons. Now we're going to go win a Super Bowl. Well, you know, this is going to be good for us in the future. I saw some fans saying, yeah, this will be good for the 49ers in the future. How? You know what would have been good for the 49ers in the future? Winning this Super Bowl and then being able to take that going forward. You know, now we know what we need to do.
I mean, the Niners have, I think, I mean, there are people that don't believe this, that believe that Mahomes is on a different level and the Niners need to go after a higher level quarterback. I think they have their guy. His name's Brock Purdy. Now build the team around him. Build him a fortress up front. Invest 3 picks in the current draft on offensive linemen. Invest 2 or 3 picks in your defensive line. You know, continue your formula. You're doing free agency for the most part pretty well. So well that teams around the league are complaining about how many compensatory selections you're coming away with. So keep doing it. Keep going after the top free agent if you can, and try to get the best players on your team. And try to replenish in the draft and keep your roster young and surround. I mean, Shanahan's a relatively young man. Purdy's a relatively young man. You know, I would imagine Andy Reid is only going to coach for another year, maybe 2. Maybe this is it. Maybe he'll retire. But
no way he's walking. Look, he
might. I mean, how old is Andy Reid? He's heavy. He's old. I mean, he doesn't look like he's going to be around forever.
Andy Reid couldn't give a flying fuck about his own family, and his dipshit, often arrested children are proof of that. All he loves is football, and he's got the greatest quarterback on the planet. He ain't going anywhere. Nowhere.
Well, you know what? He looks like he's in terrible shape, so maybe he is going somewhere.
Well, you know, get him a little Nutrisystem. I don't know, you know, but you know, the guy
How old is Andy Reid.
Old enough to, I think, have at least 4 more years with Patrick Mahomes as a head coach. I mean, who walks away from him?
He's 65.
All right, a lot of coaches, coaching, you know, longer than 65. So,
started as an O-line coach at SF State. How about that?
Maybe get Andy Reid. How about this? Kyle, we're letting you go. For who? Andy Reid. We gave him we gave him part ownership. He's in, you're out. Oh man.
Yeah, and they're not getting rid of Kyle, but at the same time, you know, I've suggested it in the past that, you know, I mean, I know they have a guy named Brian Hampton up in the booth, but maybe you need somebody right there on the sideline who can be like, hey, look, you know, I mean, Jim Harbaugh would lose control on the sidelines, but he had Brad Seeley sitting right there and he listened to Brad Seeley. Maybe Shanahan needs an on-field guy in his ear saying, hey, you know what? Yeah, while you're picking the right play out of your 18-page playbook, let me focus on the clock and the strategizing, and it's a big job. It's a big job. There's no question.
You know, it is a big job, but I guarantee you I could do it. I'll do it for half the price of the next guy you might have. Because here's the job, Larry. Here's the entire job. Hey, Kyle, run the fucking ball.
Yeah, run the ball.
That's the job. Kyle, I know you got a lot of good ideas in there. There's no better idea than student body left. Run the fucking ball.
Run the ball.
The 49ers need a run the ball coach.
They do. They absolutely do.
What are you? I'm the offensive coordinator. I'm the defensive coordinator. I'm the special teams. I'm the run the ball coach. I go up to Kyle and remind him this is still an available option for him with Christian McCaffrey, who just picked up the offensive player of the year. Run the ball.
They need a big Dom. Here, hold on. Give me 30 seconds.
They need a big Dom. I mean, just run the ball. Run the ball. Look, Brock came out and he started well in the game. He hit his first 5 passes of the game. At the end of the first quarter, he was 8 of 10 for 105 yards. There are times where you want to say, look, this is a quarterback that is worthy of believing in. This is a quarterback who you do want to ask to make plays because he's been making plays for you all year. Also, run the ball. Why don't you do that, Kyle? Run the ball. Larry will be back in a moment. Oh, Larry's back right now. There he is. Run the ball.
Run the damn ball.
Larry, I think I know what happened. I think that you just stepped outside and you took a leak in your front yard. You didn't even take it to the bathroom. Is that what just happened?
I would never take a leak in the front yard. No. I had some guy. We had a UPS guy, and he was knocking at the door.
Oh,
and I'm sitting there going, I don't know. I'll just grab the package and run inside. It's always Christmas here, Damon. Stuff is arriving at all times.
Did you order a run the ball coach? Is that Amazon? Give me a run the ball coach.
I ordered a right tackle and a side of right guard.
And I ordered 2 tackles and a wide receiver who's going to make big plays. Look, I really like Deebo. I really like George Kittle. I really like Eric Armstead. I really like Trent. I like an awful lot of these 49ers. They were good enough to win the Super Bowl this year. I like Kyle, but it keeps on coming up short with the same dudes involved over and over and over again, and you got to try something different. This team needs a little bit of a shakeup, Larry. It does. This ain't a run it back situation.
Well, it never is.
They've kicked the can down the road on so many of these salaries that this bill is going to hit the table. I was reading something in Sports Illustrated about facing more roster questions. It was written by Albert Breer. And he basically said, the next year's salary cap is going to land between $240, $245 million, which means that with about $212 million committed once Brandon Ayuk's fully guaranteed 5th-year option hits the table, they're going to have to fill out 44 roster spots between $28 and $23 million, which is impossible. So they're going to have to take a big salary of a player that everybody really likes, and they're going to have to who would fetch you the most on the open market? Deebo, George Kittle hit the block. These guys got a lot of value. A lot of value. Who's going to get you even more? You got to make a tough call, Larry. Who's it on? Who's going?
Well, I don't think Juice is going to be back. That'd be my guess. That'd be the one that goes. And then also the Ayuk thing. Yeah, if you take all of his salary, but if you then it looks massive. But if you can sign him to a long-term deal, you can minimize that first year and make it a little bit more palatable. So, I would say there's going to be a number of guys who could be leaving. I mean, you might see Eric Armstead moving. You're definitely going to see them wave goodbye to all their free agents. I mean, all
what I think is going to hurt you, Larry?
Kinlaw. What's that?
Dre Greenlaw. Bye-bye.
I don't know about that.
First of all, he's not playing next year. He's got 9 months with a popped Achilles, right? So he's not even, I don't know if you can say goodbye then. And then after that, he's definitively damaged goods. He's always getting hurt. I love Dre Greenlaw, but it might be time to go. Again, you got ticking clocks on a lot of these guys' bodies. And I think that you have to factor that into some tough decisions that are coming up.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question there's going to be tough decisions. I mean, you've got a bunch of free agents. I could give you the list of 49er free agents if you want to take a look, but I mean, it's a bunch. And then you're probably going to let most of them go. So that's just the way it is. I mean, a lot of their free agents are just going to leave, and then they're probably going to, have to sign they'll sign maybe one of them. So I would say, okay, so right now, if you said free agents, let's see. Let me jump to free agents. Here we go. 2024 free agents. All right, here's the list. And these are the guys all these guys for the most part are unrestricted. Randy Gregory, gone. Chase Young, gone. Sam Darnold.
By the way,
gone.
hold on. I'm just going to call timeout right there. You're right about him being gone. Chase Young, you played a Super Bowl. Chase Young showed up in the Super Bowl. He did.
Played hard. He
He
played
did.
hard. That was good to see. Sam Darnold, $4.5 million. I think he'll be moving on. Kinlaw at $3.8 million. He'll probably be moving on. Tayshaun Gibson at 2.9. He'll be moving on. Sebastian Joseph Day at 2.7. He'll be gone. Orrin Burks at 2.5. He'll be gone. Cleveland Farrell at 2.5. He might return. John Feliciano at 2.25. He'll probably be gone. Kevin Givens at 2.1 will be gone. Ray at 2 million will be gone. So I mean they also have Demetrius Flanagan Fowles. Who else? Ross Dwelly, Brandon Allen, I think will stay. Chris Conley, Logan Ryan, Matt Pryor, Juwan Jennings probably leaves. Ben Barch, Charlie Warner, Terrence Mitchell.
See, I would figure out a way to bring Juwan Jennings back and trade Deebo.
Yeah, but the thing is, Deebo's already signed, and so Deebo's got a big dollar figure amount, and he's coming off a year where he was pretty banged up. I don't know what kind of market there's going to be for Deebo, to be completely honest. Now, if you want to move Ayuk, you could probably get a first-round pick for Ayuk. You want to move Ayuk?
No, I'm bringing Ayuk back. And that's the thing. He's not coming back for just his 5th-year deal here. You're going to have to sign him to a multi-year extension.
Probably 3 years, $75 million, something like that. $25 million a year, something like that.
Isn't it funny that, Jennings more so, but less so, Chris Conley's played. You had guys who were hardly involved in regular season games, involved in this Super Bowl. And it went wrong, man. It went wrong. There's no other way to say it. That game went wrong.
It's funny, though. It's amazing. The Chiefs had 2 of the most penalized offensive linemen in the entire league, and they played a flag-free game in this game. Chiefs had 6 penalties. Only 2 of them were on the offensive side of the ball. Neither were on the offensive line.
Same referee as the last Super Bowl against the Chiefs, too. Bill Vinovich is he ain't calling it.
Yeah.
He ain't calling it. And that's, if you are the Chiefs and you know that, you're going in with the Legion of Boom mindset. Commit a foul on every play. Dare this son of a bitch to throw a flag on every single play, and he didn't even do it once. And Nick Bosa absolutely got held on a couple of plays because Nick Bosa absolutely gets held in every football game he has ever played in since Pop Warner. So that's rough.
Yeah, no question. No question about it. There's a lot to complain about, and there's a lot of unhappy people today. And even my 14-year-old's going, you know what, Dad, if they can't win this one, then it's probably going to be years before they're back winning because, it's like everything was set up in this game for them.
If not now, when?
And it's totally true. I mean, it's totally true. But at the same time, I do think the 49ers will probably get back there in the next couple of years. That'd be my guess. But it's going to be a totally different looking team. There's going to be every time you tear this thing back down, there's guys who get hurt, guys who retire. Purdy's young enough. There's no question. It's not like he's at the end. He's just at the beginning. So
Look,
I do think he'll get, he played pretty well.
We love Brock Purdy and the story that he is and the year that he had. At his price point, oh my God, it's the best bargain in professional sports. What do you think of Purdy making $38 million a year?
Well, we'll see. I mean, they're gonna pay him the going rate. That sounds like a little on the high side, but I would say
for 2 years from now, is that going to be the high side? It's probably where it comes in. Starting NFL quarterbacks who are starting NFL quarterbacks, that number's around 40. I mean, it really is.
Yeah. I mean, and there's several guys that are going to be gone. I mean, as I said, Chase Young, Kinlaw, Gibson, Dwelly, Ray. I mean, those guys are all going to be gone. So they're going to have to do a really good job in the draft, replenishing their roster. And they're going to have to make some really good decisions on who they draft along that offensive line. I mean, they need a major foundation piece at right tackle, and and they just overall need just a better offensive line, top to bottom, and defensive line as well. They got to get more youth and more speed and more talent on their defensive line. Right now, what do you got for sure next year? Bosa, Armstead, and Hargrave if Armstead comes back. So you still got another spot on your starting group. You got all your backups to be concerned with. Yeah, I mean they've got a daunting task in front of them for sure. And now you also have more evidence that Kyle Shanahan swallows the olive in some of the biggest moments. So you kind of wonder, is he going to be able to do it? And every year that goes by that he doesn't do it, it's going to be more and more the story of, can he do it? And that's the question.
Well, I mean, like, I feel like I can almost, outside of knowing the final score of next season's regular season games, I'm ready to do every single post-game show for next regular season right now. Here's how it's going to sound. Hey, the 49ers won today, but who gives a shit? Because when they get to the playoffs, Kyle's going to blow it. And that was the shame of all of this, because this is now a self-fulfilling prophecy until it isn't. And you don't get many chances to prove that it isn't. And last night was probably the best chance Kyle might ever have to prove he can win a big game, and he didn't. So it's just going to keep on going, and we're going to have a whole bunch of people saying, well, it ain't Purdy. I told you it ain't Purdy. Or, the carriage turns back into a pumpkin. I thought Purdy was fine last night. Get Purdy some protection. I think he's good enough to carve the league up. I really do. I'm already over next year, and we're as far away from it as you can get.
Well, I mean, next year's a totally different year. I mean, we'll see where it goes. I mean,
Well, here's the thing. Unless it goes to the Super Bowl and wins, everyone just keeps laughing. The Niners have nothing left to do. There is no regular season test. There is no pop quiz. It's all about the final exam, which they keep flunking.
No doubt. And they're going to have to get back in that game and block it out and make another run, and they're fully capable of doing it. They're going to win a lot of games, as you said, but ultimately it's going to be that question of, can they win the big one? I mean, that's the thing. Kyle Shanahan firmly wears the label, the best coach in football who hasn't won a ring, and he's not going to get endless opportunities, but he's going to have a few more for sure. Very frustrating game across the board.
Yeah, G. Martinez using my words against me, and he's right. It's about the journey. People are sick and tired of journeys. They want a destination. It's rough. You know what else really, really hurts? This one hurt me. My 4-year-old said, Dad, are you still going to take me out of school to go to a parade this week? I said, no, son, I'm not. He said, but aren't we champions? I said, no, son. No, son, you're not. It didn't happen. He's 4. He doesn't understand it. Yeah. and he thought he was going to go to a parade this week. I shouldn't have even told him about it.
Yeah.
I shouldn't.
Well, I mean, hey, my 14-year-old is despondent. He's like, Dad, it's never going to happen. And I'm like, you know what? You can't think that way because, you just don't know what life's bringing you. None of us even knew when the Niners lost the Super Bowl last time 4 years ago that that Brock Purdy even existed. So now you have a good young quarterback who you believe in. And now it's just about building up the team around him. And let's see if you can get it done. And the competition's fierce. Detroit's going to be good. Green Bay's going to be good. Chargers are going to get good with Harbaugh. And there's going to be some good teams out there. I mean, I'll tell you the first thing I would do is, Kyle is going to run the offense. So, I would look for some other offensive coach that he could have work with him
to run the ball coach.
That he would respect their game managing ability a little bit. And then I would go after Bill Belichick if you could get him. Why? Because you have 6 good young DBs, and he's one of the great DB coaches of all time, and an identifier. So it's like you bring him in, you pay him a ton of money, You let him be the defensive coordinator for a year or two, and maybe you get over the top. I mean, it's an ideal, no, but you do need to do something that makes all your guys believe that you're getting closer to the destination. And maybe bringing in a guy with that kind of resume would say, hey, look, we're not about our personal comfort or his personal comfort. We're all about, let's get this ring. And it would serve as a loud message. It would get everybody's attention, and it would give them a new kind of lease on life. I would do it. If he's at all interested, I would do it.
This loss is 50-50 Purdy Kyle. I would say 50 for sure on Kyle. Brock Purdy made no mistakes last night. None.
It's not 50-50 on Purdy.
Not at all.
That's for sure.
Not at all.
I mean, you might want to say it's 50-50. Yeah, I mean, it might be 50-50 on Kyle versus the rest of the coaching staff. But come on. It's not, I mean, Purdy played pretty well in this game. I mean, he led them to 3 scoring drives late. So it's not like they just, they absolutely dominated Purdy. He found a way to drive the team, but they couldn't score in the red zone.
Brock Purdy, again, when you were talking to your UPS driver, Purdy completed his first 5 throws of the game. He was 8 of 10 for 105 yards in the first quarter, but in the remainder of the game, he only threw for another 100 yards. He was under pressure and duress for a lot of that. Josh Deebo had this one. Since the start of the second quarter, through the start of the second quarter, through 2:23 remaining in the third quarter, Juwan Jennings had outpassed Brock Purdy. Juwan Jennings' touchdown pass went 21 yards. Purdy threw for 17 yards between the second and nearly the end of the third quarter. And again, you're getting no opportunities to put up passing numbers when you get pressured on first down, miss on second down, get stopped on third down, and you punt. The 3 drives of the second half, the first 3 drives of the second half, are where the 49ers lost this game, to the point where the Niners were still winning on the scoreboard. But I even went upstairs and told my wife and my in-laws, who were upstairs watching the game, I went upstairs at that moment. I said the 49ers are going to lose this game. They just handed every ounce of momentum that they might have had right back to the Kansas City Chiefs. And all Patrick Mahomes needs is this. And they gave it to him over and over and over again. And they didn't take advantage of anything that Patrick Mahomes gave them.
They also benched Ambry Thomas, by the way. He only played 1 defensive snap. In 5 of the Niners' 6 losses this season, he played less than 5 snaps on defense.
What happened there?
Obviously, they wanted to go.
Why are you changing horses in the biggest race of the year?
Yeah.
I honestly didn't know that. Are you 1 snap for Ambry Thomas?
1 snap.
All right. Well, I guess it definitely is time to fire Steve Wilks then, right? I mean, isn't that where Steve Wilks is supposed to be the best? I'm your secondary coach here. How does he not have one of his best players up to speed and ready to go for the Super Bowl? Why do you have a guy who literally getting inserted into the lineup after the bye week in Jacksonville helped improve your defense, and then he has a couple of bad postseason games and you just give up on him?
I don't know. I don't know what to say.
Wow. That's an indictment right there. So we got an awful lot of super chats, Larry. I'm playing the role of Larry today, where I'm kind of running the show on my side. This is normally what Larry does. So I'm going to try to go through some super chats here the very best we can. And as always, thank you very much for the support of the channel. Like and subscribe to both what Larry and I are doing. Memberships available. And we appreciate you being here very, very much. Thank you so much for being here today. Let's get going. First of all, SF Indico saying, this was worse than season 8 of Game of Thrones. Yeah, it was an awesome story right up until the very end. I will give you that one. CG Jones, fire Kyle, hire Bill Belichick. I'm not wrong. I mean, here's the thing. No one's in position to argue with you today. It's not happening, but we're not going to argue against it.
Jed said he would have been happy if the Niners lost against Detroit. So Kyle ain't going anywhere.
I mean, that sounds, isn't that like the opposite of Eddie D?
It does. It does sound like the opposite of Eddie D. But, Jed just feels like he's got this organization going in the right direction. And, Jed's a relatively young man. I think his assumption is that eventually they'll get it done. But I don't know that that's the right kind of mindset going forward. You may need more of a determined mindset than that.
Mike Baker says, but we didn't see this coming the last 2 games. Yeah, I mean, they weren't trending in the right direction at the end of the year. I didn't run it enough. Seems like the most accurate title for Kyle Shanahan's biography at this point. It really does, Sporticus. It really does. This is Gizmo Maltese saying Kyle doesn't get the ball to his stars in clutch moments the way that Reid does to Kelce. You need a set. You need a set of hard to stop plays to finish the big game. I don't know what there was going at the end there, but yeah, I hear you. Best players on this team weren't touching the ball enough. And again, George Kittle, Deebo, Trent Williams had terrible Super Bowls. Moving from San Fran was the curse. Just the facts, Mike Baker. I will tell you that Levi Stadium sucks. I will go to my grave saying that. 49ers need leaders with attitude. Well, look, they got a lot of attitude and swagger. It's not for a lack of attitude. What they need is a coach who knows the overtime rules in the Super Bowl should they actually reach that, right? Chris Jones holding sideline buddies was just looking mad.
The Niners could use Chris Jones. Now, as far as they need somebody on their defensive front seven who's just just absolutely hell-bent to win. I mean, Chris Jones is one of the great competitors of his era. They could use a little bit of his toughness on their defensive line, no doubt.
Smack Jones for 5 comes in. Oh, no, we just did that. Sorry. Thank you, Smack. Flav says, sorry, Damon, but you sound ridiculous. Kyle Shanahan just went toe-to-toe with Mr. Irrelevant again in the Super Bowl that Reid couldn't win without 21 years. Get real. He's a top 3 coach. Players have to execute. I agree with all of that. He keeps losing Super Bowls. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I'm not moving on either. He's not getting moved on from. But everything that we've seen to this point is just this guy gets the biggest game of the year and it gets worse, not better. And that just, it's not a good trend, man. And how much longer can he walk into that locker room and still command the full attention of it like he used to? At some point in time, players start saying, he's really good at this, but is he great at this? Some guys top out as coordinators. Some guys just aren't head coaches. And Kyle, is he a wartime consigliere?
Well, we know he's not right now as a Super Bowl winning head coach. So I would say the only thing I don't like about the Niners is they tend to make decisions that they're comfortable with. They need to start making some uncomfortable decisions. When I say that, I mean, start bringing guys into the room that aren't gonna, all pull the rope in the same direction. Go bring in some guys that, are going to be tough to deal with. I want to see them bring in add some toughness to this football team, mental and physical toughness in this draft. They better be a whole lot tougher football team next year than they are right now.
Cassius Boyd says, I think we're an O-line away from winning it all. Greg Argisi, all due respect, KCD run blitzed a lot. We lost because Greenlaw got hurt. Look at the stats. Brock played his ass off better than Lamar against Holmes. Again, anyone trying to blame Brock Purdy today is just got such a hard-on to crap on Brock at all times that they're going to use a Super Bowl loss to do that. He wasn't enough a part of the solution to win the game, but he wasn't the problem that lost the game. Matthew Rowley says, I'm considering not watching the NFL next year. Stop it. That's where we're going to thank you for the super chat. You'll be back week 1. You know it, and I know it, and the NFL knows it. This is Gizmo Maltese saying 49ers won the Super Bowl using the West Coast offense. That's using the passing game as a ball control. They were masters of the dink and dunk. When the game was on the line, they could still dink and dunk, kill the clock, and score.
They are more explosive now, but man, the continuity just has not been there. You got to have some plays that you can go to against any defense, and they just didn't seem like they had that go-to play.
Greg Argisi. Greg Argisi saying Purdy is elite. Believe it. Here's the thing. He's not elite, but he's good. He's very good. And if he does next year, like he played in the regular season, if he continues to improve here, he'll enter that elite conversation. He's very, very, very good. There's no doubt about that. And very, very, very good is officially the best quarterback the 49ers have had since Steve Young. Born in the 90s, only know 3 losses in the Super Bowl. After coming back against the Packers down 24-7, this season seems special. We had a two-game winning field goals. Mahomes got a game-winning touchdown, and that's the difference. Yeah, field goals get you beat against the Kansas City Chiefs. Herbie Holland. Come on, Larry. Eddie D was firing Walsh after the 87 loss to the Vikings, and Eagles won the Super Bowl after they fired Andy. Boy, I'm really beginning to question your knowledge. Fire Shanahan. No, he's not getting fired.
He's not getting fired. I mean, Herbie, you can say whatever the fuck you want. And Walsh did not get fired after the 87 season. He coached in 88 and could have continued to coach after that if he had chosen to.
Lori Matthews. Ray's been good this season. He also had a hell of a catch and took a big hit. Let's not overreact here. Lori, I love you. Ray should not be allowed back in the facility ever again. He's done. No more Ray McLeod. He doesn't do enough on special teams, and he made as big of a mistake that you fundamentally learn not to make in Pop Warner football. Green Glass Full. Thought Brock and the D had a bad coach. Thought Brock and the D did great. Bad coaching, though. Brock was good. Defensive line kind of did its job. Defensive line holding the Kansas City Chiefs to 3 points in the first half is supposed to be a pretty good half for a defense. They didn't score enough.
I don't know if I'd call it great, though. I mean, you're giving up 455 total yards. I don't know if I'd call that great.
No, it's not. It's certainly not great, but it felt like the vast majority of those yards came at the end of the game. I mean, they were in position to win this in regulation more than they were in position to win it in overtime.
I just think if you look at the fumbles in this game, there were 5 fumbles by Kansas City, and they lost one. The Niners had 2 fumbles, and they lost 2. So there were 7 fumbles, and the Chiefs fell on 6 of them. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's that right there. I mean, you want to say the difference in the game? 7 fumbles, and the Chiefs fell on 6.
James W.F. The O-line was pushed back 3 yards on that extra point. It's not on Moody. No, that thing came out low. That was on Moody. And sure, you want to say that the offensive line didn't get its job done. I think that's a defining feature of this game. Matthew Raleigh said, one of the things I didn't hate was us taking the ball in overtime. Defense was gassed, both sides. No. You don't factor in who's tired in that moment.
Well, I mean, how long was the drive? How long was the drive at the end of the game? It wasn't a 15-play drive.
It was like a 12-play drive, right?
Let me see.
I got to open it up. Let me get some more.
13 play 75. No, that was overtime. It was an 11-play 64-yard drive in a minute 50. A minute 50 drive.
Mike Baker says, you two obviously see the code in the Matrix. I don't. No, Mike, you're a great fan. We're just hosting an angry show this afternoon. Had Hydra at running back and tied 2 heads back. Okay, I get what you're saying. You had 3 guys who could run the ball, and you only let one do it. Well, one did it so well that he was named the Offensive Player of the Year. And I don't know how much more of a better year Christian McCaffrey would have had, better of a postseason Christian McCaffrey would have had with, call it 30, 40 less carries on his body than coming into the Super Bowl had they given those carries to either Mitchell or Mason. But I would like to see those guys use more. And not exploring the talent on their own depth chart is maybe something that this team needs to reconsider. Like you were saying, viable linebackers who they didn't give any snaps to all year were on this roster. James, again, Larry, find a new co-host. Damon's takes are awful. Hey, thanks for the super chat, dipshit. By the way, Larry's agreeing with everything I'm saying. So what are you even talking about? we're kind of on the same page over here. Juwan Jennings, 5 years, $40 million, number one receiver. He shows up.
He's going to be gone. I don't think, because Deebo signed and not tradable. Ayuk is too good to trade, and they're not going to pay 3 wide receivers. So Juwan is going to have fans all around football, and he's going to get paid, and he's going to leave.
Flav again, because Chase Young played well, it might not happen. But if he doesn't like offers, I could see him back on a 1-year deal. I would do it. What's the price? What's the price for Chase? He's going to get more than a 1-year contract offer.
When he dogged it in the conference title game, no way. He's gone.
They need to pull a move like the Rams. Sell Deebo, Ayuk, Juice, and Greenlaw. It's tough, but Deebo and Ayuk just don't get it done. 57 is always hurt. Ayuk gets it done. Everyone else there, they're gonna be discussed. They will be discussed this year, this offseason. Iceman, maybe karma for leaving San Francisco, but the Niners are now the Bills of the NFC. They do come up short for a very talented team. That was it, guys. Can Purdy beat Mahomes, Allen, Jackson, Burrow, Stroud, Herbert, Love? Question mark. Quarterbacks have to win Super Bowls, always have and always will. No, defense wins championships. I mean, had the defense been even better, they would. But look, I don't. Purdy's not the problem. And here's the thing: this whole get rid of Purdy for whom? For who? You can bring in Kirk Cousins with all of his Cousins. Get out of here.
Is Kirk Cousins even an upgrade?
No. And at the price point, it's a detriment to the entire roster. So, no. Go all in on the O-line or get Josh Allen. Okay. Maybe that's all right. Josh Allen, by the way, turns the ball over an awful lot and hasn't won a thing either.
Was he talking about that Josh Allen? I think he's talking about the Jaguars defensive end Josh Allen.
Maybe you're right. Maybe that does make more sense if you think about it, Larry. Good job there. Maddie says, something for the jingle jangle. Downplaying getting a dog walk by Bengals and Ravens. This team can't compete with the competition of the AFC, period. Purdy is average at best. There are times to argue with you. This is probably not one of those times. The AFC put it on the Niners hard this year. There's no doubt about it. It's going to be harder. Rams, Lions, and Packers. It officially doesn't get easier as you get older and other young teams are still frosty and ready to go.
Yep.
2 more here. We ran the ball. What we want to do is mix in the run behind, win the third, but that's what cost us. The O-line, no cash on the KC turnovers. That's the thing. When Kansas City hands you an opportunity you have to take advantage of, Kansas City handed the 49ers offense multiple opportunities to run up a score on them, and those turned into punts, not even field goals. They must get the O-line right. Everything will follow. Khalid Rice. Thank you, Khalid. Appreciate it. We appreciate you all being here. I hope I didn't miss any super chats as we were diving into about 40 super chats in a row there. We thank you so much. Damon Bruce, Larry Kruger. It might not be wake up. Let's call it brunch. It's officially the Damon Bruce show, though, which means, Larry, if you don't mind, I have to tell everyone about my good friend Ike, who had a huge role in both you and I going to Las Vegas, and we had a great time in Las Vegas. That's why it's such a sour feeling for such a fun week to end like this. But thanks so much to Ike's. His sandwiches are absolutely remarkable. They're available almost up and down the West Coast, any major city you're in now. And if they're not in your city, believe me, they could be coming soon. He keeps on growing. His sandwiches are delicious. Download that Ike's Rewards app. You'll be very, very happy you did. Postgame and Damon last night brought to you by Hughes Orthopedics. Larry, you met Dr. Paul Hughes at dinner on Friday night, and he was already telling you about the things that he can do with stem cells and helping regenerate bodies, heal. And Dr. Paul Hughes is got offices in San Mateo, satellite offices throughout the Bay Area. If you want to avoid an orthopedic surgery, ironically, the website to go to is orthopedicsurgeries.com. Check out Dr. Paul Hughes, info@orthopedicsurgeries.com. And if you use the code word Hunter, which is the name of his 9-year-old son, who I met, absolutely charming kid, you can get 50% off your procedure. So there you go. Sponsorships taken care of. Fans taken care of. Super chat here. 2 things can be true. Kyle and Purdy are average. I would say that there's no statistical proof that they are average. They're statistically above average, but unfortunately, the worst of them happens to continue to come out in big games. Well, you can't say that. Here's the thing. Purdy's never lost a big game he's been in and started and finished until last night, and I can't put that loss on Brock Purdy. It's not like he had any galactic failure in that game. There you go. Hi, I'm still here, everyone. That was Kyle. Again, he's not average, but he gets to the biggest game and it feels like they tighten up, Larry. You know,
well,
puckering is what they call it.
Definitely do. I mean, they definitely do. There's just no doubt about it. And I don't know if it's the pressure of the moment or if, what the deal is, but they tend to get too pass happy. They don't run enough. And the game ends and you look up and you're like, well, wait a second. Why didn't they run more? So, it's just, at the end of the day, Mahomes and Reid are on the top of the sport, and they're the very best.
They are the yardstick of excellence that the entire league is measuring itself against. There is no doubt about that.
But I mean, the one thing that is so frustrating is that Shanahan now in 3 Super Bowls as either the offensive coordinator or head coach, he's an offensive guy who knows offensive football. His teams have been outscored in the fourth quarter and overtime 68-12. The 68 number's bad, but the 12 is heinous. You've played in 3 Super Bowls as a head coach, and you've scored 12 points in the fourth quarter in 3 Super Bowls, or 3 Super Bowls as a head coach or an OC, and your offenses have produced a total of 12 points in the fourth quarter and overtime. I mean, you're talking about 4 quarters of football, 12 points with under pressure. So, I got to wonder if that's Kyle, if that's the players.
It's all together. I mean, it takes a team, right? I mean, it's everyone's looking for the one guy to blame. I really do think that this is a team where there's more than just one guy to blame. Which brings us back to the head coach, because he's responsible for all the guys that we're picking amongst who to blame. It feels like Ray wasn't coached to just fall on a fumble, which is just amazing to me. I mean, all you do is special teams, and you don't even do that very well as a returner. So you'd figure you'd have the fundamentals of it all down. Again, there's always somebody trying to take it too far. Purdy is an average. He just sucks. You have no statistical evidence, be it numbers produced in terms of in-game stats or win-losses for the 49ers, to even come close to backing that up. What you're saying in your comment here, Easy Mercs Z, is you do not know what you're talking about. There's nothing about the start to Brock Purdy's career that suggests he is average statistically or team-wide just in the win-loss column. He has gotten to an NFC title game and a Super Bowl in his first 2 years. That's not bad.
He isn't average. He just sucks. I mean, come on. Come on, bro. That's a clown. That's a clown quote, bro.
That's a clown question, bro. Oh man.
It was a rough one, man, and it's going to be rough to get over this one because it's going to take forever to get back here, even if they can. Green Bay's on the rise. Detroit's on the rise. I mean, those teams are absolutely getting nothing but better.
You know who's also on the rise? The Los Angeles Rams.
Possibly.
The demise of the Los Angeles Rams.
They do have an old quarterback.
Exaggerated.
They do have a 35-year-old quarterback. So I don't look at them as on the rise like I look at
quarterbacks are playing into their 40s now, though, Larry. I mean, 35 is the new 31, right?
Yeah. Yeah, if the Rams get build up their whole defense in 1 year, their defense is not championship caliber. But we'll see. I mean, this is a year-to-year league at this point.
Right. There is very, very little evidence that, one game translates to another. So try to take one season and roll it into another is totally ridiculous. It was a great year for the 49ers that ends in brutal fashion. I mean, just absolutely brutal fashion. And there is no sugarcoating that. There is zero putting there's no way to dress this up. There's no lipstick for the pig of this loss, Larry. There isn't. And, people are saying, Damon, you grew up a Bears fan. You don't even root for the 49ers. Why are you so mad? I'm so mad because I knew how good they were, and they left how good they were somewhere in the regular season to really not be found in this postseason. And that's disappointing. The worst the Niners looked in this year was in their 3 postseason games. If you added it all up together, they were unimpressive until they beat the Packers. They were unimpressive against the Detroit Lions for more of that game than anyone would like to admit, and but for Dan Campbell's mistakes, I don't even know if they reached the Super Bowl. And then they get to the Super Bowl, and there is a level of unimpressive that you have to attach to this game as well.
Yeah, it was a bad game. I mean, what can you say? It was a bad game, but the Purdy sucks. And the guy's like, give me some numbers. How about go look up any number you want? How
right.
about that?
He's a statistical passing leader in just about any single statistical passing stat you look up. He's in the top 5 in everything, if not in the top 2 or leading everything else.
I mean, what number are you looking for? It's all out there.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. If you're looking for numbers at this point, you're just don't want to find them, or you just don't care, or you just want to, that's fine. You're mad. You want to say Purdy sucks. Fine. Go say Purdy sucks. But you should be telling me, backing up why he sucks with some number, instead of telling me when I tell you you're high, that you're like, whoa, show me a number. How about go pick up a book and pick up anything? I mean, the guy's number 1 in almost every offensive fucking category. Maybe he doesn't suck. Maybe you're just pissed. Maybe you lost some money.
Which is okay. But again, let's not, there's plenty of blame to go around. Looking to attach the blame of this loss to someone who doesn't really deserve it when other guys 1,000% deserve it. How about this? How good could any quarterback be in a game where his offensive line is doing a shit job protecting for him, and 2 of his biggest weapons, his tight end and his wide receiver, are not to be found in the game? And the other wide receiver has 3 catches. And the offensive player of the year, even though he had 30 touches, needed at least 35. It's hard to see somebody gets 30 touches and say that they weren't used enough. But I will go to my grave telling you that Christian McCaffrey was not used enough in a game where he was used plenty, but it still wasn't enough. Again, Kyle 100% needs a run the ball coach to just remind him to run the ball.
And if it works, stay with it. Stay with it. But, I mean, what can you say? I mean, on one hand, you could easily sit there and go, well, Andy Reid's a Hall of Famer. Mahomes is a Hall of Famer. When the lights were shining bright, they performed, and that's why they're them. Okay. And there's nothing wrong about any of that. But let's be honest. The 49ers had opportunities in that game. There were a bunch of fumbles. They didn't fall on any. They easily could have fallen on 2 or 3 more of those fumbles. It would have been different. Their defensive line is a strength, and they went up against an offensive line that had led the league in holding, and yet there's plenty of examples of Niners getting bear hugged, but there were no holding calls. So that was a bad break. And then, obviously the Shanahan mistake in overtime is another bad break. I mean, there was a bunch of them. Greenlaw going out, that was a bad break. They just had an awful lot of adversity in this game, and you could kind of tell that the way Andy Reid was coaching in the playoffs, that he knew he had a flawed team that was not a vintage team, and he wasn't going to take too many chances. And they didn't take tons of chances even in this game.
It was a very pedestrian first half for Kansas City. It felt like he wasn't even asking Patrick Mahomes to go do Patrick Mahomes-y things. But boy, did he save that for late in the fourth quarter and overtime. And I remember you and I talking about this. The 49ers got the better race car, but there's no doubt the best race car driver on the track is Patrick Mahomes. And when it's all said and done, the singular excellence of Patrick Mahomes beats another football team. There are very few quarterbacks in the history of this league that are better than everything and everyone you got all combined all at once. Mahomes is that guy. So if your answer is, well, then go out and find another Patrick Mahomes. That's like saying, I'm really impressed by Saturn's rings. Go find me another Saturn.
Yeah.
There is no other Saturn.
And once again, what are you going to get rid of the guy that's doing the job for you to draft another big guy with a strong arm and just hope that he becomes Mahomes on, I mean, if you want, you could probably go call the Bears right now and get Justin Fields. Is he better than Purdy? I would say probably not.
Not as a passer.
He's bigger. He's faster.
He can run like the wind, but he is not the definitively better player. Not even close.
Yeah.
If the quarterback's first job is to throw the ball, then Purdy is a better quarterback.
Bad Mike or Bad X or what is this? Bad X Mike says Purdy is the best second-year quarterback in the last 20 years. Or second-year quarterback in the last 20 years.
I would agree with that. Well, how about this? With Patrick Mahomes being the first, right?
Oh, yeah.
A couple more super chats came in. Gizmo Maltese. Kelce, more yardage and receptions than Ayuk, Deebo, and Kittle combined. And remember, like I said, great players cannot be stopped over the course of 4 quarters. You might have them at halftime, but then they make the adjustments, and the adjustments were made. And Kelce ends up being the leading yardage pass catcher in the game. Not just for the Chiefs, but in the entire game. If we lose draft Rice. If we lose draft JJ Rice.
No. He's saying if we lose Jawan Jennings, draft Brendan Rice. Rice's kid. Which I would do. The only thing is you're probably going to have to use one of your 3rd round picks or one of your 4th round picks on him. He's not going to be there forever. So there you go. Phil Valley says I'm unhinged, and he wish I was like this every day. Do I really seem unhinged right now?
You don't seem unhinged.
I definitely do not seem unhinged.
It's like in Inglourious Bastards when Stieglitz is sharpening his knife in the corner before they go down to the bar, and what's his name walks up to him and goes, "You calm down, just remain calm." He's like, "Don't I look calm to you?" He's just sharpening his knife. Larry's just sharpening his knife. Herbie Holland, damn Larry, you're angry this afternoon. All I was saying is that you thought Eddie wouldn't fire Kyle. I think he would, and of course Kyle is going nowhere. But I have my opinion. And Herbie, you always pay to put that opinion out there, and we thank you very much for being generous in the super chat. Again, here he is being generous again. Herbie coming in with another $2. Still love both of you guys. Even angry Larry. Herbie, we love you too. Would you like to address Herbie directly?
Well, I mean, say whatever you want, but I mean, just remember this: any jackass can take a sledgehammer to their kitchen. It takes a contractor to rebuild it. So don't be any jackass taking a sledgehammer to the Niners kitchen before you have even the slightest idea of how to build the thing back up. You want to get rid of Purdy, but who's going to quarterback the team? You want to get rid of Kyle? That's fine. Who's going to be the head coach of the team? Anybody can say wreck shop and destroy it. It takes a lot more skill to say, and then come back with this guy that you acquire in this capacity, and this is how it's going to work.
I think
that's all I'm pushing back on.
Right.
I'm pushing back on the notion of, destroy everything. Anybody can take a sledgehammer to anything. Can you build it back? Don't take the Niners did this once before. They took a sledgehammer to a guy named Jim Harbaugh, and they got rid of him. But they didn't have any new head coach to hire, so they just hired the guy that they thought would be happy with the job, who was nearby, and that was Jim Tomsula, and he sucked. And then they replaced him with Chip Kelly because they wanted an innovative offensive guy, and he sucked worse. And then suddenly they were the worst roster in football, and they needed like a 3 or 4 year rebuild. And that's when they hired Shanahan. And sure enough, in his third year, he's in the Super Bowl. But I mean, if you're going to say take a sledgehammer to Purdy or to Shanahan, that's fine. But if you want my respect or if you want my admiration in any way, you'll come up with something that you think is better, not just the sledgehammer.
I think the one thing that anyone who wanted to argue against you has, Larry, would be, okay, so I don't think Kirk Cousins is just better than Brock Purdy. I don't think you have a better solution. And, trying out a new quarterback every 2 years is an experiment that hasn't gotten the 49ers anything to this point. I would not like to run that experiment again when we see so many good data points being returned by Brock Purdy. Kyle Shanahan, wildly successful, has done a very good job in so many ways. But if you're asking, what might be better than him? How about the guy who's won more Super Bowls than any other head coach on the history of the planet who is available? I mean, that would be the one thing. All right, so if I wanted to get rid of Kyle Shanahan, you better have a better name for me. Well, he's a lot older. He's like 30 years more down the road. But his name is Bill Belichick. Now, Bill Belichick's got the biggest coaching dick in the world.
He's also got a terrible record in the last 5 years.
Not his defense, though. Not his defense. His defense can play.
But, I mean, you're talking about winning. They haven't won.
How many coaches can take Jimmy G to the Super Bowl, enable Mr. Irrelevant to go toe-to-toe with Mahomes in his Super Bowl in his first full year? Kyle Shanahan is not the problem. He's responsible for 25% of the coaches in the NFL. You are right about all that. He also didn't know the rules of overtime in the biggest game in the world. Again, there's just something to come back here and yank that rug out from underneath Kyle whenever you want to. Herbie, we already did that. This is from Dreesen. Larry and Damon, much love to you both. While streaming this game, I couldn't help but think of the crowd I thought was kicking the field goal in overtime was a mistake. This was the Super Bowl. You go for the touchdown or bust.
I agree. Would have taken bowling balls to go for the touchdown, but
the thing is, though, and if you don't go for the touchdown, you're leaving the team with they got to go 96 yards on you.
Somebody says Larry looks drained. Larry is drained.
Dude, that's what happens when you spend about most of the week in Las Vegas and then you come back and the Super Bowl just kicks you right in the ass. Damon, just giving you a hard time early on. Get rid of Deebo and Kittle take. The 49ers are close and it shouldn't lose their top players. Cheers. Well, thank you, James. But here's the thing. The salary cap is going to take one of them out. Not my hard feelings or my opinion. The 49ers, the reason why this year was just so crucial for them is because their economic model that this team is built upon is about to be shifted underneath their feet. So they had they don't have much longer with this. And this now has to change dramatically before next year starts. And then the biggest change will come when Brock gets that next deal. Because Brock Purdy, if he plays with any degree of this year or next year resembling this year's regular season, Brock Purdy is a $40 million a year quarterback in this league. You're going to have to pay him market rate. And when you start paying
which
Brock
is
Purdy
fine
market rate,
as long as you hit in the draft. You know, they have to hit in the draft. Losing Adam Peters, what's that going to do to their drafting ability and their day 3 of the draft and their undrafted free agents? I mean, they're going to have to continue to hit in the draft. They're going to have to continue to find players in the draft. And if they can't do that at a pretty high rate, because Detroit is proving they can and Green Bay's proving they can, and we're going to find out about John Lynch and how good of a general manager John Lynch is, because they have needs now, and and as Brock gets paid, that's fine, but that just means that you can't fill your needs with veterans in the free agent window. You need to fill them with draft picks and develop your roster. The one thing I really was uncomfortable with this year was I was uncomfortable watching talented younger players who were getting run on other teams, getting no run on this team. And somehow, they're going to have to start leaning on the D. Winters and the Jair Browns and the Jalen Grahams, and their ability to win is in a lot of ways tied to their ability to draft.
This is Gen 3 Cully. There's too much praise for Mahomes. People are making the Chiefs out to be unbeatable when they were an extra point away from losing. No, there isn't enough praise for Mahomes, and he has, in such short amount of time, leapfrogged the legacies of Joe Montana and Steve Young and maybe even Tom Brady and certainly Peyton Manning. Patrick Mahomes is having the best start to an NFL career of any career the NFL has ever seen. Full stop, hit print, that's the headline. Patrick Mahomes might be one of the 5 greatest football players of all time, mentioned in the same breath as Lawrence Taylor, Jerry Rice. He is one of the all-timers. When it's finally done and we come up with the all-time football depth chart, there is a chance that QB1 will be Patrick Mahomes. He's that good. And I'm not exaggerating.
No, come on. He's the best quarterback in the game.
Time to trade away an offensive weapon or two to improve that O-line through the draft. Yeah, they're going to need to spend money. And the truth is, Larry, who's the best? You don't need to look this up right now, but who is the best experienced offensive lineman about to hit this draft? Because, if they draft 3 offensive linemen, the chance of one of them being a real NFL player is as best as you can really hope for. So maybe you got to go get a proven entity, which comes at no short cost in this league during free agency.
I mean, there's a possibility you can go in free agency and try to make it happen. Most likely, though, you don't even see those guys get to free agency. I mean, there's such a need for premier pass blocking, tackles, that there just aren't a lot of them out there. Just period. Just not. So, the bottom line is they're going to have to go into the draft and find somebody. And the good news is that it's a very deep tackle draft. There's probably going to be 7 or 8 that go in the first round. And they're all pretty good. And Tyler Guyton from Oklahoma, I think is the guy that probably will be on the board when they wind up picking. And
He's the tackle, right?
yeah, he's 6'7", he's 325 pounds. He's a really good player. There's other guys though. Patrick Paul from Houston's really good, and Sumatea from BYU's really good. And I mean, there's a bunch of guys that are going to be staring at them. Amarius Mims potentially from Georgia. But J.C. Latham is the guy that they absolutely need is J.C. Latham. He's the right tackle from Alabama, and the Niners need a right tackle. This guy's 6'6", he's 335. He could be a plug-and-play right tackle, but you'd probably have to trade either Deebo or Brandon Ayuk or something to get into the middle of the first round to get Latham.
Do you think Trent comes back?
Yeah, he's already said he's coming back.
Okay, good. Hopefully he doesn't come back with back-to-back penalties in a fucking Super Bowl.
Right.
Orlando Pace would never. Jim Covert would never.
Well, it wasn't just Trent.
He ain't all time.
It wasn't just Trent. I mean, the Niners blew this in several different ways. It wasn't like it was just Trent.
No.
Trent made some bad calls, but to me, I mean, bad mistakes. But I mean, third quarter, Jair Brown intercepts Mahomes, third snap after halftime, but the Niners go 3 and out, and they took just a minute off the clock, and then that was backed up by a Aaron Banks false start, and then the defense forced the Chiefs to go 3 and out, and Purdy then takes the ball and he has through 3 ensuing passes, and they don't get a first down, and so they breeze to another 3 and out. Then Deebo suffers a hamstring strain. I mean, the Niners went 3 and out again at the end of the third quarter. So, and then they muffed the Chiefs' end of quarter punt that bounced off Luter and wasn't correctly corralled by Ray. So the third quarter was a freaking nightmare from start to finish, to be honest.
I got a tough question for you. Who wins the Super Bowl first? Kyle Shanahan, D'Amico Ryans, or Jim Harbaugh?
I'll say Kyle Shanahan. I think it's going to take Jimmy probably at least 2 or 3 years to get it up and rolling. I'm not convinced that Herbert can outplay Mahomes in a big game. We'll have to see that. So I think they've got some questions. D'Amico, I think, had a real nice first year, but I expect them to regress a little bit. This year they caught everybody by surprise. They're not going to catch everybody by surprise. There'll be some growing pains for C.J. Stroud once the league studies him for a full off season. I'll say Shanahan, but it'll be close.
Brad times Mike with a super chat saying Kyle went into the postseason and the Super Bowl scared and clipped Purdy's wings. He didn't let him throw deep like he did during the regular season. I don't know if Purdy had the pocket to get off that deep throw. When he did get off deep throws, Larry, you could see he was going off of his back foot. Purdy's footwork on some of those deep throws were just rendered unfundamental by the pressure that he was under. And if you are going to slow down Brock Purdy, the really good way to do it is to have blanket coverage and pressure up the middle. And that is two things that Steve Spagnuolo threw at Brock Purdy all game long. Blanket coverage, even though he was blitzing right up Main Street.
And they did it with smaller guys, and they got home. And they really they got some good hits on Brock.
Christmas was a big game. Purdy got embarrassed. Right, but then they reached the Super Bowl. So, you got to get over that, right? I mean, and the team that, by the way, so thoroughly embarrassed them didn't reach the Super Bowl. So, yes, the 49ers lost to the Ravens on Christmas. Thank you. That is correct. We knew that.
I love the people in the chat reminding you that the Niners passed on Mahomes. It's like, yeah, we remember.
Well, look, I mean, and that is another damnation against Kyle and John Lynch. You know, they saw Trey Lance and said, "Oh yeah, we got to go trade up for that," and they didn't even bother sending a scout to Patrick Mahomes' pro day.
Well, I mean, I do understand. It's very, very difficult to handicap the quarterback market, and teams make the wrong decisions on the quarterback market every single year. So they liked a guy in Kirk Cousins, and they're like, "Oh, we'll build up our defense. We'll take a little fewer chances. We won't take a chance on a high risk, high reward pick." And then they wound up having to do that anyway, and they took Trey Lance. So you can't bemoan the high pick pressure that comes with being, in the spot they're in. I mean, they passed on Mahomes. They passed on Mahomes. So, they got to wear it now. And Mahomes is the quarterback of his generation.
Herbie Holland again, who's spending an awful lot of money to argue with you today, Larry. So at least thank you very much, Herbie, for dropping these in supers. With all due respect, Larry, Marty Schottenheimer was fired after going 13-3 and losing. Kyle is responsible for the entire team, including defense, and his defense, to me, has lost him those games. I mean, Kyle does have to replace a defensive coordinator every single time I look up. But this is, look, there's so much blame to go around. That's the mind-numbing thing of this. To try to just reduce it to one person is hard to do, which means it all falls under the umbrella of the head coach. Look, this is why Kyle makes an awful lot of money, because he is going to catch holy hell between now and the day he wins a Super Bowl. The holy hell doesn't start when week 1 gets here next year. This is who he is. He is the galactic loser in the biggest game of the year. In the biggest game that he is in, he always loses it until he doesn't. And that is the life that Kyle now leads. You're really good, but ultimately not good enough. The only thing that Kyle has on his side is he's got a good team. He's got an organization that is a winning organization. And he's going to be 45 years old, next December or February, whenever his birthday is? He's so young. He's so young.
I mean, as far as, okay, great. You want to fire Schottenheimer? I mean, you want to fire Kyle Shanahan because Schottenheimer got fired? Okay. I mean, once again, did Norv Turner take over the Chargers in 2007 from Marty Schottenheimer and win the Super Bowl? No. They went 14-2 under Marty. In 2006, they got rid of Marty. The next year, they went 11-5 under Norv.
Kyle's not the reason we lost. We had a lot of wide receivers open, but Brock couldn't give them the ball because the O-line sucked. It's from Sagi 2112. Offensive line was a problem all year. Pass protection was a problem all year, and it reared its head in the Super Bowl. It's amazing how the problems that you have all year show up at the worst times, right, Larry?
Yeah, it's just the way it goes, right? I mean, you're only as weak. You're strong as your weakest link. And their weakest link was their offensive line a good portion of the year, and their O-line got whipped when it mattered.
Someone who's got a handle like the name of a robot in a bad science fiction movie has been generous enough to put $10 into the super chat. Says Mahomes and Andy Reid. Reid was under Mike Holmgren, who was with Bill Walsh and coached Montana and Young. We lost to the closest connection to Bill Walsh. Yeah. There's no doubt. Andy Reid is really, really good at this. And remember, Andy Reid was at a point in his career that Kyle feels like he's standing in right now. And with here's the deal. Kyle will be a Super Bowl champion one day. I believe that. Will he be it with the 49ers is now an official question I keep asking myself.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see.
Just scrolling here looking for the Herbie again. Just coming in. You guys got me drinking already this afternoon. We can tell by your super chatting aggressiveness, Herbie, and thank you very, very much.
Well, I'm fine with you. Once again, you want to get rid of Shanahan, get rid of Shanahan. But come in here and tell us who that you're going to replace him with.
Bill Belichick.
Is going to be better.
Bill Belichick.
See, I don't think Bill Belichick's a good answer. I respect it, but the reality is they were like 12-22 in the last 2 years there. So is he really an upgrade at this point? I don't know.
I mean, I wouldn't want to make any GM decisions, but I
like Bill Belichick, but I'm just saying.
Somebody here
I would bring him in as a defensive coordinator.
Skip Bayless says, you ignored my super chat. Sorry, Skip. Anything with the word Skip Bayless on it, I automatically ignore just in my nature. You could leave us $1 billion super chat under the name Skip Bayless. I probably won't even see it because I assume you're just a troll at this point. James WF, Zintner, the guard, the All-American from Michigan, third rounder. Larry, analysis.
I believe you're talking about the transfer. I kind of like the kid that's going to go later in the draft for the Michigan Wolverines. His name's Keegan. He was the left guard, 6'6", long arms, team captain. I like Zinter too. Don't get me wrong, but I like Ladarius Henderson, who was their left tackle. I think he's going to be like a 4th round pick, and I love him. And I think Keegan in the 5th or 6th round would be a very good pick. He was their kind of gutty leader on that offensive line. I like Henderson and Keegan more than I like Zinter.
From Aharu. Let's get Bill Belichick and a young quarterback-focused OC who can run Shanahan's system. At what point? At what point do you have enough of what Kyle has done successfully to where you don't need Kyle to do it successfully? Right? I mean, I don't know. I've spent more time defending Kyle Shanahan than just about anybody. And I do believe he is a very good coach. But he just has not been good for the 49ers when they needed him the most. And today, honestly, I wasn't ready to come down Kyle Shanahan's road this hard until I heard that Kyle Juszczyk and Eric Armstead said that at no point in time over the course of the last season did Kyle discuss a new overtime rule with his team. And that, to me, is a level of negligence that it is a fireable offense. I don't think he's going to get fired, but Kyle has officially committed a fireable offense. Would you agree with me there, Larry? This is a fireable offense that he will not be fired for.
I don't know if it's a fireable offense, but that his players didn't know, but he's got to know. And he's the guy who made that decision. So it doesn't bother me that Eric Armstead didn't know. What bothers me is that Kyle didn't know. Because Kyle is the guy that has to know, because you're going to make your decision of whether to take the ball or not take the ball based on the rules. And if you don't know the rules, that's not good.
Shitty loss, but I discovered Wake Up, big fan. Well, thank you, James. And I guess, Larry, let's sort of change the juju of the show. Not the Juju Smith-Schuster of the show, but the juju of the show. We love working together. Obviously, Larry and I just spent nearly a week in Vegas with his son, Kevin, as well, who came on out and was a huge help. And Larry and I have known each other for almost a quarter century together here. We've known each other a very, very long time, and we've always kind of to work together, wanted to do a regular show together, but no station in this town was ever smart enough to get that done, although we almost came close, but that's another story. What we've got. Starting, and I want to get the date right here, March 4th, the first calendared Monday in the month of March, Larry and I are going to be bringing you Wake Up 3 days a week. Our start time will be at 8:30. We will go to 9:15. It will be a tight 45-minute show coming to you 3 days a week from 8:30 to 9:15. The perfect show to fit into your morning routine, to have downloaded and be able to listen to on your lunch break, your lunch hour, And as we said many times in Vegas, Larry, we're going to keep it tight. We're going to keep it tight like a tiger. And that's what we're going to do, and we're really looking forward to it.
Monday, Wednesday, and Friday throughout the offseason. So join us in the mornings, and we'll provide a lot of good Bay Area sports content, a ton of Niners, maybe even some Warriors and Giants along the way.
Well, and what we're definitely going to do is spend Mondays and Fridays concentrating on our own backyard out here in the Bay Area. But Wednesdays, we'll skew a little bit more national. And we make sure that we're on the big stories that every sports fan is talking about. So we're really looking forward to what we've got here. And, to wrap up things on a positive note, it's been an awesome first year for me here on YouTube. Larry, you've been a wild leg up for me here on YouTube. I was lucky to have not only my own reputation to bring with me here to YouTube, and I would tell anyone starting a YouTube channel, a nice way to start it is with, a near 20-year career where you've got some recognition in the town that you're doing business in but having a guy like you who very much like me got thrust into this situation a couple of years before me, you were able to hand me a playbook that I've been running since the day I started. You started with no playbook. Like nobody told you how to get going. You learned an awful lot and you passed that knowledge on to me. And I thank you greatly for it. And it's why you're not just a broadcasting partner and a co-host, you're a friend. So I thank you an awful lot, partner.
I appreciate it, man. And, onward and upward. I think everybody who does 49er content lost some subscribers this morning. I just looked at my subscriber list. I was at 38,755, and now I'm at 38,748. So what happened to those 7 people? But no, I understand. But people come, people go. We've added over 5,000 subs in the last 4 weeks alone, and a lot of those people come because of the Super Bowl and may disappear when the Super Bowl is over. So I do understand that. But we're going to put out great content throughout the year. And this is going to be a place that you're going to want to be on a regular basis. And with that being said, I just wanted to say thank you to everybody this year. It's been a great Niner year. I know all of you are disappointed. I'm disappointed. I know all of you, if you're like me, are somewhat like deflated today and just kind of like, I can't believe I just fucking watched that. But you know what? It's just going to make it so much sweeter when we're all standing there in the winner's circle at some point in the future. So thank you to Damon. Thank you to all of you guys. And thanks to my son, Kevin, who's done more than anybody could ever do to help me rise up these ranks. And the Krug Show's sitting at 38,748. We've produced almost 5 million views in the last 4 weeks alone, and over 420,000 watch hours. So thank you to everybody who's watched any of my videos, streams, and there'll be more to come in the days and weeks and months ahead.
Here you go. This sums it up very well. JP from the 510. To all the trolls, F off, but at least hit that like button on your way out. Again, you're going to need you're going to need someone to come and troll. Now, it's really easy to go troll people who don't know what they're talking about. We do know what we're talking about. So come troll us. We appreciate the eyeballs and the views without being clickbaity. We'll take it all. We really, really will. A few more coming in here. This is Gen 3 Khalil saying, let's have some perspective. Andy is 9-0 with the Eagles, 16-7 with the Chiefs. Kyle is 8-3. Give him some room to work. Unfortunately, those losses keep coming at the wrong time. But you're right. I mean, patience is a very hard thing to ask of anyone in 2024. That's the year that we're in now. And more patience is going to have to be applied here, whether you like it or not, because it's a long time before we're in the month of, late August or early September when week 1 starts next year. So patience is the prescription that we all need. We'll find out what Ralph Barbieri might have thought of everything here in just a second. But Larry, commercials. I mean, I know, like we're watching the game. We're sitting here, during commercial breaks or when I'm making a lot of notes and my mind is racing and whatnot. What do you think? What do you think? Did any of these commercials stand out to you for either being particularly good or particularly weird or particularly bad?
You know what? It was the first Super Bowl that I literally didn't pay attention to the commercials. I really didn't. There were some good ones, and when I watch it again, I'm sure I'll have something to say in the next day or two. But I was so pent up and nervous, and I just couldn't. I just took a deep breath during the commercials. I really did.
By the way, Jillian, who is in here watching as well, Bad Times Mike, thanks for the support. Did I miss a super chat from you, brother? I'm so sorry. Thank you very, very much for the support. Again, Herbie is just throwing him back at this point. Come on, guys. At least I'm sending in money. Again, thank you. Thank you very, very much. At least we got that going for us right now. Again, what do we got here? Bad Times Mike again. Y'all earned it in the moment. My comment was read without it being in the super chat. Hit me right in the feels.
There you go.
Thank you very, very much. We do appreciate it. I'll just say I thought the Dunkin' Donuts, Bennifer, Matt Damon, Tom Brady commercial, like that kind of made me laugh. The BMW commercial, where everyone's doing an impression of Christopher Walken to Christopher Walken. Hey, everyone's got a Christopher Walken impression, right? That was out there. The Chris Pratt Pringles commercial I thought was kind of funny. And the weirdest commercial was the Jesus washes everyone's feet, which again is a beautiful, kind act of submission to, I get it biblically, what it all means and what it represents. What was weird about the commercial, first of all, is that Jesus is buying commercials in the Super Bowl. Number two,
does he get a deal?
You'd think, right? But, if, like, to me, if you have to advertise your religion, your Scientology, right? Like, I can't believe Jesus needs a commercial as bad as he needs ones these days. And if Jesus were to dial up a commercial, I'm really surprised that he picked In Excess, Never Tear You Apart to be the background music. Jesus washing feet to In Excess. Didn't have that one coming down the pipe. Didn't think that was going to happen. But there was look, Usher at halftime. That guy's got some talent, right? I mean, good God, he can move, he can dance, he can sing. That's called a triple threat, everybody. The Arnold State Farm commercial made me chuckle from Nathaniel Richards. I thought that was pretty good. That was pretty good. Get to the chopper. He doesn't hit hard R's. Arnold's never been good on the hard R's. That is for sure. I don't even think I want to do a Trent Baalke. But if Ralph were on the air today, what do you think he's wrapping up on this one? Who's getting the brunt of Ralph's ire today, Larry? If we're really upset here, and I gotta drag Tommy and Tate, and we gotta get the Miata, and we gotta throw somebody in the trunk, because that's how it is. Who's going in the Miata trunk today if you're Ralph?
I love Kyle Shanahan. I've always said it. I truly love Kyle Shanahan. But what he did yesterday is indefensible. I mean, there's no other way around it. I mean, I told Tom, I told Tate, I told Peter from Amici's, I told everybody that I came in contact with that Kyle's a great guy. He's a good friend. I like having him on the show. Tom and I both do, right, Tom? Yeah, we do. We really do. But I what can you say? I mean, I'm not really sure how this would go down. Today, I wouldn't want to take him for a drive in the Miata. I'll put it at that. I'll just leave it at that.
Sports don't build character. They reveal it.